Здравствуйте.
Добрый день. Уважаемые коллеги,
Hello, distinguished colleagues. We are glad to welcome you at our conference.
many participants, and it would not be exaggeration to say that we have a world's best leading experts in road safety from all seen in the program. We shall begin with the greetings of Vice Minister, but before he is getting connected, ministers are generally have a quite a schedule. President of International Road Federation, based in Washington, D.C. And International Road Federation is a leading, connecting and leading world best experts since 1947. And we are have a good partnership with them, both as Kazakhstani Association and Kazakh Scientific Research Institute, and working with them. Kenneth Svensson, best experts and basically authors of Vision Zero from Sweden. I have honor to know personally, and we have attended his lectures, and he is teaching road safety experts from all over the world to become better. Road assessment program found being based in UK, but also being used in many countries. So in India, it has there are many good steps and progress, and road safety in India roads are improving personally and his colleagues. I will continue introducing our speakers, but now Mr. Турсунович Абдуллин. Турген Турсунович, саламатство. Добрый день. Вам слово, если, пожалуйста.
Okay, the Vice Minister, the floor is yours. Please, you're welcome. Hello, good evening, dear colleagues. I'm the chairperson of the Committee for Roads, Mr. Abdulin. So we have the simultaneous interpretation going on. Yes, am I right? Yes, we have the interpretation. We have simultaneous interpretation ongoing. Sorry, Mr. Almas, the Vice Minister, was urgently called to the government to have a meeting there. So that's why I will be speaking on behalf of the Ministry of Industry and Infrastructural Development as the chairperson of the Committee for Roads. On behalf of the Ministry of Industry and Infrastructural Development, let me welcome all the participants of this international conference, and my special thanks to our foreign speakers and colleagues from the USA, India, Czech Republic, Geneva, and Sweden. We are very happy to cooperate with such distinguished organizations as the World Health Organization, IRAP, Vision Zero Academy, and IRF. Also, I would like to express my thanks to Kazakhstani Research Institute for Road Safety for arranging this kind of conference. Because during this conference, we'll be raising very relevant issues. We'll be talking about improving road safety in our country. During recent years, our ministry, partnering with other international institutions, we have implemented different projects aimed at improving road safety, such as road safety audit implementation, IRAP implementation in Kazakhstan. So these projects were funded by the World Bank. Also, I would like to highlight that this week, on the 4th of December, we launched the new project on implementation of IRAP funded by EBRD. Besides, in all the road construction projects, for the road safety audits, the ministry is taking all the measures to improve the road safety in the country. Hopefully, with our joint efforts, we'll be able to achieve good results and ensuring road safety at our roads. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Tulegan, for your time, for your welcoming remarks. We will continue, and now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Brandon Helleman, the Vice President of International Road Federation. Please, small presentation and welcome remarks from your side. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me and see my screen. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, on behalf of the International Road Federation, I would also like to extend my warm welcome to everyone and my personal congratulations to our colleagues in Astana for the inspiring choice of today's conference theme. A few words about the IRF. We are what is sometimes described as a global fraternity of road professionals, and as was introduced earlier, for the last 75 years, we've acted as a knowledge hub at the service of government agencies, research institutes, universities, and road builders to promote the application of innovative approaches and technologies to solve pressing road mobility issues. And on this note, I wish to recognize the Kazakh Scientific Research Institute for Road Safety, who are now joining our global fraternity. The IRF supports the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety. Every day, our member organizations affect real change by designing policies and solutions, from road scanning systems to speed enforcement cameras, that help protect people from death or injury. Our efforts are coordinated by a global road safety committee, through which we develop training programs, road safety conferences, policy recommendations, as well as international road safety awards. With today's theme, you're touching on a key principle underpinning the Vision Zero philosophy. Proactive assessment of traffic injury risk is widely recognized as an effective instrument to better target road safety improvements and investments. In recent years, our ability to capture and analyze predictive traffic safety risk data has multiplied tenfold. This includes the emergence of video analytics to capture near-miss incidents at intersections, or the use of vehicle sensor data, such as pedestrian collision alerts, to understand where vulnerable road users are at greatest risk. And of course, network-wide infrastructure analysis tools, such as IRAP, which you will be hearing more about today. So from our vantage point as a global organization, the key priority is now to build awareness around these tools and ensure that they are widely deployed in countries such as Kazakhstan, where they can be put to use and help eradicate traffic injury risk. In fact, in order to support this process, we have recently launched a task force on artificial intelligence for safer road mobility that will provide guidance and training resources on making the best use of these new instruments, and which we welcome your participation in. Thank you once again for associating IRF to your conference, and I look forward to the rest of today's presentations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brandon, for your introduction and work and short presentation. Уважаемые коллеги, по поводу перевода.
Dear colleagues, regarding the interpretation, at the bottom, you can see the button globe. You can push this button and choose the preferred language. We have simultaneous interpretation ongoing in Russian and English languages. Now, distinguished colleagues, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Masanov. He is the director of Kazakhstani Research Institute for Road Safety. He is one of the active promoter of the road safety in our country. He is well known not only in our country, but also abroad, CIS country, Europe, and USA. Mr. Arestan, the floor is yours. Hello, dear guests. Hello, dear colleagues. Let me welcome you and let me thank all the participants of this international conference. I would like to thank the chairperson of the Road Committee. Also, I would like to thank Vice President of IRF, Brandon. Also, I would like to extend my gratitude to all the speakers who will be presented today. Now, let me share my screen. Can you share? Can you help me to share my screen? Who will help me? Okay, just a second. Okay, now you can see my screen. Let me speak about the main trends on the road safety in the Republic of Kazakhstan and also about the perspectives for the future and also achievements that we have in this area. Next slide, please. In Kazakhstan, starting 1991 till 2021, we registered 459 road accidents. 86,000 of people died during these accidents, and 58,000 people were injured. In this chart, you can see there are road traffic incidents dynamics for the last 50 years. And here you can see that the peak of the incidents happened in 2013, as you can see from the chart. Next. Can we have full screen? Totally, the economic losses from the road incidents during the last 7 years, according to last estimates, these economic losses is about 7.3 trillion tenge. In the chart lower, you can see the dynamics of the economic losses calculated using IRAP methodology. And also, the methodology proposed by the World Bank, if you calculate these losses, economic losses from the road incidents using the World Bank methodology, these estimates will be much more higher than 7.3 trillion. So one of the important elements to manage road safety is the quality of data to register incidents and to register the consequences of incidents. This is the map that is being implemented by the General Prosecutor's Office. This is the operational center where in real time they follow up the road incidents, and they are collecting a lot of other analytical data. Using this data, we can identify the bottlenecks on our roads, and also we can identify the black spots on our roads. According to this map, you can see in the south and in the west of Kazakhstan, we can see that the roads there are high risky roads, according to this data. Next slide. According to the legal statistics data, during 2017-21, we registered 21 million administrative violations of road safety rules. 7 million of these violations are overspeeding. And we all know that high speed results into the high mortality rates because of the incidents. And in the table, you can see the breakdown by years of different types of traffic rules violations. For example, unfastened seatbelt, 1.38 million violations, unsafe behavior of pedestrians, almost 1 million violations. So drunken driving or DUI 132,000, and driving in fatigue condition 27,000 cases of these violations of these rules. Next slide. Based on the initiative of the road commits, we started to implement IRAP projects at 6.2 thousand kilometers. So this project to implement IRAP in these roads was funded by the World Bank. We finalized this project in 2021. You can see the star rating that was made according to IRAP methodology. So on the left, the chart shows a star rating before the measures taken, and on the right slide, so it's after all the measures taken, where you can see on the left slide, on the left picture, 1 star is coded with black color, and so you can see that. So after all the measures taken, there is not almost such places. Next slide. Here you can see the examples of the risk maps of Almaty, Shymkent, and of the Kargan cities using the star rating methodology. Also, as part of this project, implemented project, we trained 25 experts on how to use IRAP methodology. Also, we developed the training materials in Russian and Kazakh languages. Also, we developed the rule guidelines that were approved by the Road Committee under the Ministry of Industry and Infrastructural Development. These rules or these guidelines are approved. These guidelines stipulates for the recommendations on the use of IRAP methodology. Okay, in the nearest future, we plan to implement several projects aimed at improving road safety in the country. Also, we all know that UNDP is planning to promote the Vision Zero concept aimed at reduction of injury and disability after the road accidents. The European Bank started the project on strategic risk assessment at the main roads, 5,000 kilometers of these roads. Also, the Ministry of Interior is developing the amendments aimed at responsibility of the drivers, aimed at the increased responsibility of the drivers for speeding at the roads outside the cities. And also there is a national project, technological breakthrough using digitalization, science and innovations. As part of this project, the Ministry of Interior is planning to implement the coverage, wild coverage with CCTVs at all the roads in the Republican roads and regional centers. So this project is being implemented by 2025. That's it from my side. Thank you. If you have any questions, please. You're welcome. Please, you can put your questions in the chat. Thank you, Mr. Arslan. Yes, so please, if you have questions, you can write your questions in the chat. And now, our next speaker will be Kenneth Swenson, Vision Zero Academy. I introduced him before. He is one of the lead specialists on Vision Zero, and also he's the trainer, the lecturer at the Vision Zero Academy. We visited this academy. It was an honor for us. We were there in 2019. We met with Kenneth personally, and people from all over the world are coming to this academy. Mr. Kenneth, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be talking to you. Very nice to see you again. So let's see, I will try to share the screen. So can you see my presentation?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So I will talk about Vision Zero, the basics in Vision Zero, what it is all about. So I would like to present a scenario for you. Imagine two cars, two drivers driving on a road like this, and the driver of the red car believes that the driver of the blue car drives too slow. So he or she decides to overtake like this. And when the vehicles are parallel like this, something happens in front of them that requires that they need to stop the vehicles as fast as possible. And when they are parallel, the speed of the blue car is 50 kilometers per hour. The speed of the red car is 60 kilometers per hour. But as I said, they need to brake as fast as they can here to stop the vehicles. And the question I would like to ask to you now is, what speed would the red car be at when the blue car has stopped? So when the blue car has stopped, what remaining speed does the red car have at that point? I will give you the answer in a few minutes. It has to do with the basic physics. Every moving object has an amount of energy, kinetic energy, and it's calculated like this. The mass multiplied with the velocity or speed in square divided with 2. And that means if you, for some reason, double the speed, the energy involved will not be doubled. It will be 4 times as high. And of course, that has an impact on stopping distances if something is happening and you need to stop your vehicle. So if you look at this slide here, it shows stopping distance and collision speed. And we think that the driver has fast reaction time, 1 second, and it's hard braking on dry asphalt. And if we think of the car that was driving in 50 kilometers per hour, the blue line here. So on this axis, it's the initial speed, kilometer per hours, and on the other axis is stopping distance in meter. So the first car that was driving in 50, first it's the reaction time, the blue line here, and then it's no reduction in speed because during the reaction time, the vehicle just continues in the same speed. But then the driver starts to brake, and after some 27 meters, that car has stopped. Then we think of the other car that was driving in 60. It's the same thing. First, the reaction time, no reduction in speed. Then the driver starts to brake, and after some 34 meters, that vehicle has stopped. But if you look at where the first car that was driving in 50 has come to a stop and just goes straight up here, you get to this other line. So the remaining speed at that point on that vehicle that was driving in 60 initially is some 40 kilometers per hour. So that was the answer for my question. So a difference in 10 kilometers per hour between 50 and 60 become the difference between standing still and perhaps hitting an object in 40 kilometers per hour. And when I show this slide, I always use this example as well. Imagine you're driving in 30 kilometers per hour and a child runs out in front of you, 12 meters in front of the car. What will happen? Well, if you're driving in 30, it's first the reaction time, then you brake, and after some 12 meters, you have stopped your car. And hopefully you will not even hit a child because after 12 meters, you have stopped. But what would have happened if you have been driving in 50 kilometers per hour? Then we just go straight up here to the 50 kilometer per hour line here, and you will see you will not even have begun to brake. You will hit that child in 50 kilometers per hour, and that will be a very, very severe crash. It might even be a fatal accident. And this is, excuse me, very difficult to understand for us, that speed sometimes can be very dangerous. We don't really feel that speed is something that you need to have respect for. But we have a natural fear or respect for heights. So if we were to do some kind of maintenance work on the outside of a building on the 10th floor, we don't want to do that without any kind of safety equipment, because we know if we would fall down, we will hit the ground in 90 kilometers per hour. But driving a car without seatbelt in 90 kilometers per hour, we don't feel that is dangerous, do we? It feels quite safe, because we don't have the same respect or fear for speed. That is not something that we are inclined to feel for some reason. So this is very difficult to communicate, that speed sometimes can be dangerous. I usually show this slide as well when I have this presentation. Usain Bolt, he's still the fastest man on earth. He holds the world record of 100 meters. He ran in 9.58 seconds. The mean speed was 38 kilometers per hour if you calculate, and he peaked above 40 something. But what would have happened to Mr. Usain Bolt if he, instead of crossing the finishing line, would have run into a brick wall? We can understand that he would be injured. He would probably have facial fractures, broken ribs. He might even be unconscious after the crash, but he would probably survive because he was young and fit back then. But this quite well illustrates how much the human body can tolerate when it comes to crash impact. We can tolerate the amount of energy that we ourselves can produce with our own bodies. But if we go beyond that level, we need to have extra protection in order to be safe and sound if something happens. We need to wear a helmet if you go by bike. We need to have seatbelt if we go by car and so forth, and we exceed those limits, those speeds. Because today we quite well know what kind of crash impact is dangerous. We quite well know where the threshold of survival is. This slide here shows the risk to be killed at different collision speed. It's quite rough graph here, but it illustrates quite well the science that we know so far. And on this axis, it's the risk to be killed, and here is the collision speed. So if you are a pedestrian and if you are hit in some 30 kilometers per hour, most people can survive that kind of impact. But if you are really old and fragile, you might not even survive in that kind of quite low speed. But what if the speed would have been 50, 60, or 70 kilometers per hour and you are hit as a pedestrian? Well, most of those crashes are fatal, because we cannot tolerate that kind of impact on our bodies. Those are fatal crashes. And the same thing if we look at head-on collisions. If you have a head-on collision in some 70 kilometers per hour and you sit in a safe car and you use the safety equipment, seatbelt, for example, well, most of those crashes are survivable because the vehicle itself can absorb the energy. But if the speed would be some 90 to 100 kilometers per hour, well, then it doesn't matter if you sit in the most safe car and you use safety equipment. Those crashes will still be fatal, since the vehicle cannot absorb so much energy. So those riding in that car will get injured and killed. And this we need to take into account, of course, when we build our roads. We should not have roads with the possibility to have a head-on collision if the speed is too high. This slide, it's produced not by the Swedish Transport Administration, it's actually the Volvo car company that have produced this slide. They have said, what kind of initial speed is acceptable so that persons riding in our vehicles can still be safe and sound if a collision occurs. And they say if the initial speed is 80 kilometers per hour, and if you use seat belt and you sit in a modern Volvo car, if you have a head-on collision, the vehicle should be able to withstand that kind of crash. But that also requires that the vehicles are equipped with features that can feel that a crash is unavoidable, so the vehicle starts to brake automatically before the crash, so that the speed in the collision will be 70 or even below 70. And when it comes to pedestrian, they have said if the initial speed is on 40 kilometers per hour, and the vehicle has this detection system that can feel that there is a pedestrian in front of them, so the vehicle can start to brake automatically, well, then those people that are hit should not be hit in a speed that is dangerous for them. And of course, take this into account so that we don't have roads with the speeds more than 80 kilometers per hour if there's a possibility to have head-on collisions. So Vision Zero, what is it about? It's an ethical standpoint that no one should be killed or suffer lifelong injury in road traffic. It's also the knowledge that we humans will make errors, but we should not be punished just because making a human error by being killed or severely injured in road traffic. And what I've been trying to tell you so far is that the level of violence that the human body can tolerate without being killed or seriously injured shall be the basic parameter in the design of the road transport system. And Vision Zero is also about shared responsibility. We talk about system designers, and those are, for example, a municipality, a road authority, can also be the police. They are responsible for the design, operation, and the use of the road transport system, and are thereby responsible for the level of safety within the entire system. The road users, they have also a responsibility, of course. They are responsible for following the rules for using the road transport system set by the system designers. But then there's a very important third bullet point here. If the road users fail to comply with these rules due to lack of knowledge, acceptance, or ability, the system designers are required to take the necessary further steps to prevent people from being killed or injured. That means it's like a loop back to the system designer. The responsibility goes back. For example, let's say that a road authority builds a road and open that road for the public, and they set a speed limit, maybe 70 kilometers per hour. But when they open this for the public, they find that people are speeding, and there are lots of accidents and injuries, and people are killed on that road. Should that road authority just say, well, we have done our part, we have built this road according to all the regulations, so we can't do anything more? No, according to the Vision Zero principles here, the responsibility goes back to the road authority. They need to take further action to mitigate this problem, take action to lower the speed somehow. Maybe they need to talk with the police so the police can do more surveillance on this road so that energy and speed goes down and the road becomes safer. So just a few slides, examples how you can think when it comes to road design. This is actually a road from Sweden. We had 90 kilometers per hour, and we had a very severe accident, fatal accident on this road. And as I've been talking about, this is not a safe speed on that kind of road. The posted speed limit here is higher than the Vision Zero design speed. It's not safe to have a head-on collision on this road. So what can we do? Well, we can lower the speed limit. We might need to have speed cameras to make sure that the actual speed on the road is according to the speed limit. Or we can maybe rebuild the road, put up a barrier, this mid barrier. So we have 2 lanes in one direction and 1 lane in the other. So we cannot have this head-on collision. And then we can even make the speed become higher because it's still much safer than before. Another very good Vision Zero solution, so to say, is to have a roundabout instead of an ordinary intersection with the traffic signals, because in a roundabout you don't have these very severe side-on collision. You have collisions in a different kind of angle, and the speed is lower, and it's much safer. You don't see fatal collisions in this kind of environment, but the number of accidents will not be less. It might even be more accidents in a roundabout, but the accidents that occur are not severe. And that is the main purpose with Vision Zero, to focus on the severe and fatal crashes. Those are the ones that we need to get rid of. In Sweden, we have a lot of these speed cameras. We call them lifesavers. And when we do before and after studies, we have seen that the number of fatalities on the road that we have put up these speed cameras have gone down with some 40%, because the mean speed will go down on the road. People will not be speeding anymore. And if we look at in a urban area, you can work with speed bumps and fencing like this, so you can steer pedestrians to places where it's quite safe to cross the road. And where they cross, you have a speed bump to make the energy of the system go down, so it will be safe for the pedestrians. And in a residential area, this is where I live almost, you can also work with speed bumps, because in this area, you know that pedestrians will cross the roads. We have a school back here and we have a park to the right. So this is a place where we will have vulnerable road users that will cross this road. It's not that this road is more prone to accidents, but this is how one of the municipalities in Sweden work. They work systematically with putting up speed bumps in a residential area to get the speed down and the energy down in the system, so it will be safe for people living there. Just a few examples. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Kenneth. Thank you so much for your presentation. As always, interesting, inspiring, and reminding us how vulnerable road users as well as pedestrians on the road. Thank you so much. Уважаемые коллеги, сейчас хотел бы предоставить слово.
So, dear colleagues, now I would like to give the floor to Jisha Mosau. He is a manager on DRUP, and as you are aware, we have completed successfully the ERA project in Kazakhstan. It was financed by the World Bank. We have trained 20 technical specialists from different authorities, including the Committee of Roads. So Mr. Jikshev was taking part in this project, and he is one of those who has actually arranged the training for the local specialists.
Hello, good evening, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Zandos, for introducing me, and greetings from India. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So I'll be talking today about the International Road Assessment Program. We have the STAR rating and an investment plan as a metric to measure road safety. So let me start by introducing IRAP. It's International Road Assessment Program, which is a charity with vision to have world free of high-risk roads. IRAP is active in more than 100 countries at the moment. So IRAP provides tools and training to the road authorities, mobility clubs, and development banks, as well as the stakeholders, the government counterpart. to make roads safer in that country. There are a number of country-based programs established in various regions in the Europe, Asia Pacific, and so on. So the country-based local programs, they work closely with the government to implement the safer road investment plans and make the road safer. So IREP has shared success with the partners around the world, and this has now led to more than 100 countries with the RAP-related activities. Over 1.5 million kilometers of the risk mapping, over 1.1 million kilometers of the star rating, and importantly, more than $79 billion of road investments are made safer. Over 25,000 people, engineers have been trained in this time, and our combined impact is now saving thousands of lives every year. I'm sure you have heard about the global road safety performance targets coming from the Decade of Action of the United Nations. So I'll talk about target number 3 and 4, which is about the road infrastructure, how to measure road infrastructure and make sure they are safer. So target number 3 says by year 2030, all the new roads, the roads we are going to upgrade, they must achieve a technical standard for road safety or 3-star or better for all road users. Target number 4 is for existing roads or the roads which are already have been developed and under maintenance and operation state. So the target number 4 says for such roads, more than 75% of travel should be on 3-star or better roads. So these two targets talk about the roads which we are going to build, new roads, and the existing roads, how to make them safer, how to measure safety offered by the road infrastructure. The map on the right, you are seeing that it shows 23 countries in the UN SCAP region. They have the IREP star rating as a metric to measure safety of the road infrastructure. Talking about Kazakhstan, as Mr. Aristan mentioned, over 5,000 kilometers of roads were assessed in the Kazakhstan, and it shows the existing condition of the road. You can see here, 42% of the travel is on the 3-star or better road network for vehicle occupants, which looks good compared to others. Motorcycle, only 16% of the travel is on 3-star or better. For cyclists, only 26%, and pedestrians, 27%. So that is the existing condition we have assessed. And Mr. Aristan also mentioned how the safety can be improved by implementing the investment plan. The IREP's vaccine for roads. You can find this more information on the vaccineforroads.org. The business case for safer roads as investment to make roads safer, that should be considered as a business case by the government. So this analysis for Kazakhstan, it shows that every year we are losing 4.3% of GDP due to road crashes. Now a small investment of 0.16% of the annual GDP every year for next 10 years to improve the road infrastructure and speed management, that will help us to save over 1,000 lives every year. That will result into economic benefits of US $32,800 million, which is really huge. And this all effort will also make sure we achieve more than 75% of travel on 3-star or better roads. You can find more information about this data on the website vaccinesforroads.org. Now I will briefly show the process, how the star ratings are done. This process has been followed duly in the star rating of the Kazakhstan road network. So you can see it starts with the data collection, where a vehicle mounted with camera and GPS that is run on the road network to collect video and GPS data. That data is brought to office, and the trained people, officers, they view these video images and they extract 50+ road attributes for every 100-meter segment of the road. So that generates a lot of road infrastructure data, which is very important. There is also some supporting data which is required, like the traffic flow speed, the 85th percentile operating speed, traffic volume, and road crash data. This all data goes in the software, which is named VIDA, and the software processes this data to generate star rating. Star rating is done for 4 road user groups: vehicle occupants, motorcyclists, pedestrian, and bicycle. So star rating shows the existing level of safety offered by the road infrastructure to these road users. The software also produces a road condition report based on the input data of the road infrastructure. And the third part, most important, is the Safer Road Investment Plan that talks about how to improve safety on that particular road network. It shows in details the road location-wise type of different safety treatments that should be implemented with the economic analysis, with estimate of cost and benefit in terms of how many lives can be saved by doing these treatments. The third part, implementation, where the implementing authority can take up detailed design of the safety treatments. Some of the treatments can be taken up in the maintenance stage and so on. So there are a few more stages which are possible, like the star rating of design. So if the designs are being prepared, those can be star rated. After construction, the surveys can be done again to see how the star ratings have been improved. So that was the overall process. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of infrastructure data is being captured in this process, and this is really important. As this infrastructure data is the strong evidence of linking the road design or the road built-in feature with likelihood of the crash and its severity. And these can be really measured. I mean, the safety level of safety is in a objectively measured way, in a quantified way. And by systematically inspecting the roads, we can develop an overall understanding of the level of risk which is built into the network. This is a proactive and actionable data which can help us to target the high-risk road sections where more and more crashes are happening or likely to happen. This can also give an opportunity to encourage more safe, active transport like cycling and walking. And all this, it leads to achieving the global performance targets. So the data we collect mainly, it is the operating speed, how people are driving, traffic flow, and the attributes, road attributes. So the road attributes like this are collected. You can see here the paved shoulders on the left-hand side, sidewalk provision, that is the footpath, roadside objects and their distance from edge of the road, type of area, whether urban or rural area, speed limit, vehicle operating speed, and vehicle flow. Any facilities for motorcycles, bicycles, and their relevant flow. Curvature in the alignment of the road and the quality of curvature, how good visibility of the curvature. And these attributes on the right-hand side, paved shoulders, sidewalk, and roadside objects. Also, we collect other data like intersection type. If there is an intersection, what type of intersection, its quality, how well the intersection guides road users to negotiate channelization and traffic signals, etc. For pedestrians, any crossing facilities are present, their crossing quality of the facility, speed management measures, and any roadworks which are present, type of median. You can see here a narrow physical median is present. Sight distance, that is the visibility of pedestrians and other vulnerable road users. Road delineation, vertical gradient, lane width, number of lanes, and so on. Street lightings, etc. So there are 50+ parameters, road infrastructure attributes which are captured, which produces star rating. As an example, the infrastructure can, with improved infrastructure, we can really lower the risk of road crashes. So in the image left, you can see higher risk because there is no road markings or edge line. Whereas on the right hand side, you can see the edge line, the center line, which differentiates to the side of the road, and it really guides the driver to drive in a correct path. Another example for pedestrian, in the image on the left, you can see there is no facility for pedestrian to cross a wide road. They have to cross a number of lanes. It looks like 3 or 4 lanes they have to cross without any facility, which is really going to increase the risk of pedestrian crash. On the right hand side, a very nice facility, a zebra marking with some traffic calming measures and a refuge island like this, which lowers the risk of pedestrian crash. So these are the basic examples I have shown. The road infrastructure data we captured that provides a network level information, like how much percentage of the network has good quality and slow speed crossing where pedestrians are present, and so on. Now, the investment plan, which talks about safety treatments which should be implemented, that remains a challenge in several ways. So I'm going to show 3 ways how best we can implement the safety treatments on a road. So the first one is in the style of developing a safe corridor demonstration program. So this can be done by identifying high-risk corridors from the network safety assessment. For example, in the Kazakhstan, 5,000 kilometers of the roads were assessed. A particular corridor, say 50 kilometer or 100 kilometer or so on length, could be selected, which is really high risk and where more vulnerable road users are present. This design of safety treatment has to be done. So some of the safety treatment may not require detailed design, but some safety treatment will require preparation of design drawings and cost estimate approvals, etc. Community engagement is a really important parameter where we need to engage community, talk with them how the changes in the road infrastructure are going to help them. Police intervention for enforcement of the new speed limit or any changes. And then the post-crash care, trauma centers and ambulance. So this all multi-approach kind of way is required to have some result to achieve the safety and save lives. And then launch the program as the road is built, can have a launch, measure the success and celebrate. I'll show some detailed example of the SCDP in next slide. Second way is to include the star rating measurement when the road upgrade project is going on. So when the road designs are being prepared in any road upgrade program, we can perform design star rating that will help us to understand, compare the existing star rating versus the design star rating. And this is an opportunity to improve design before the construction happens. So the high risk sections or locations can be identified in the design with this process, and this can be improved before implementation. The third way here shown here is the operation and maintenance stage. So some of the road safety treatments which can be taken up in the operation maintenance stage can be taken as a priority measures. So example shown here in the 3 levels, some of the treatment which could be done, say, within 3 months as part of routine or periodic maintenance items. These can be implemented quickly. There will be some type of treatments which require a bit more time to prepare, get cost estimate approvals, etc., say 6 to 12 months. And then some road upgrade, real road upgrade item, for example, adding one more lane or grade separation and so on, which requires more time, detailed design preparation and so on. So the investment plan, which is done at the end of the star rating process, that can be prioritized in this way, which will help to implement safety treatments. It is also possible to customize the investment plan with available budget. So how much budget is available with the safety authority or the implementing authority, and the investment plan can be prioritized to fit that budget. So this example from Karnataka, India, where a safe corridor demonstration program was implemented under World Bank funding. So the documents, the World Bank and the state government agreement, it says that the corridor has to be improved to minimum 3-star rating level. So the designs were prepared, designs were star rated to make sure it achieves 3-star rating or better. Some images from the safer corridor which was improved. This is one example of an intersection developed. On the left, you can see existing intersection before upgrade. And then later, when it was upgraded with a channelizing island and traffic calming measures, pedestrian crossing facilities, it achieved 3-star rating for all road users. This also involved police. Police were given the interceptor vehicle. Here you can see for speed enforcement under the World Bank funding, proper training, and then they were deployed on the field to make sure that people do not overspeed on the new road. And the results showed they tell a story. You know, the number of deaths and serious injuries reduced by 50%. After the road was improved to 3-star rating or better. You can find more information on the World Bank blog on this. I also spoke about the second measure of design star rating, where under a road upgrade project, this tool can be used. So this example from China, where you can see existing road, very wide road, number of lanes, which is going to be converted as a dual carriageway with nice footpaths and space in between and on both sides of the road, with a lower speed limit, which is safer for pedestrians and other vulnerable road users. So this will help to achieve 5-star rating for pedestrians, motorcycles, and bicycles. Asian Development Bank, they have developed a manual for the Karak region recently on how to combine the road safety audit process with star rating. So this is a really nice manual available on the ADB website. It talks about different ways of integrating the two processes. Road safety audit and IRF star rating both have proactive way of doing safety assessment, and both bring synergies. So there are various levels of star rating detailing, which can be integrated with the road safety audit. The third way I mentioned about prioritization of the investment plan. So here in this table, you can see the treatments which can be taken up as a maintenance items, road maintenance items, for example, improving road markings, delineation, clearing any hazards on the side of the road, school zone warnings, fencing for pedestrians, traffic calming measures, paved shoulders, and so on. So these items, this is coming from one project we recently did in India with the National Highway Authority, and the treatments identified under the script were classified like this, prioritized like this, and then the implementation happened. There are some advanced maintenance items which will require additional detailing, cost estimate, preparation of cost estimates, and then approvals. For example, new footpaths, shoulder rumble strips, new crash barriers, street lightings, widening of the lanes, and so on. And then there were some upgrade items which are really high cost and involves a lot of detailed designing and approvals, protected turn lane at the intersection, new bicycle lanes, motorcycle lanes, grade separation, and so on. So in this table, you can see here the investment plan was split into 3 levels: maintenance, advanced maintenance, and road upgrades. So they have their own cost estimate. Importantly, you can see the maintenance items which can be done in a short item. that will help to reduce about 17% of deaths and serious injuries. Whereas advanced maintenance items, which will require additional cost estimates approvals, which will help to reduce 32%. But the road upgrade, which are really high cost items, it will help to reduce just 5% of the crashes. So this shows really important to focus on the low and middle cost, mid cost items, which can be quickly implemented. So this is example from that particular road project. So you can see here in this image, delineation and signing of the intersections, improving crash barrier. There are some high risk end of the crash barriers here. Motorcycle lanes could be painted on one side of the road. Curve delineation, we have curvature alignment, so proper delineation to have better visibility. Median, there is a physical median, but on high-speed road, what happens? Vehicles jump, cross over the median, and go over the side. So a crash barrier in the median will prevent such crashes. And having street lighting. So that's the example from the national highway in India. So to conclude, I'll say it's a really important takeaway here we have is to have a multi-sectoral and proactive network level improvement combined with a reactive approach. So kind of mix, both proactive and reactive approach. You can see here we have different tools: IRAP star rating, road safety audit, crash data, learning from what is happening in the past. There is also this also gives opportunity to improve standards where not up to the mark. Having a proper road design and then multi-sectoral approach. So this will help us to achieve safety and save lives. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Jigish. It's really useful for us, even we are dealing with Arab several years, but learning and have a takeaways from your presentation, and I'm sure as well as from many colleagues. And if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask them writing by chat. So we are continuing and going on with presentations and speeches, but here is the options, and you can ask previous speakers as well. So let me introduce the next speaker, Mr. Gilivanda. Gilivanda has successfully led the team. He was a team leader in IRAP implementation project, which was financed by World Bank. And now he is also team leader for a new project, which also considers the assessment of another 5,000 kilometers, and which is financed by EBRD. Using this opportunity, I would like to thank European Bank for Reconstruction and Development for financing the projects, and so that we are able to continue work on IRAP in Kazakhstan. And just as the chairman in the beginning said, we are beginning it just on 4th December. And we believe it will be the same as it was the previous project, successful in very cooperative approach between all parties: Committee for Roads, Kazakh National Mobility Center. Mr. Giri, please.
Good afternoon. Warm greetings from Central Europe, from Czech Republic, from Prague. I would like to present Vision Zero and the idea on which Vision Zero is based. Do you see the screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. What is actually Vision Zero? It is based on the fact that yearly toll of road accidents is 25,000 deaths in European Union, 135,000 of serious injuries, and on global measure, it is 1,300,000 people dead on the world roads. Vision Zero is a strategy how to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries while increasing safe, healthy, and equitable mobility for all. This vision was first implemented in Sweden in the 90s, and Vision Zero has proved successful across whole Europe. We have the power to prevent traffic collisions, which is important to understand. Former consideration was that traffic deaths and severe injuries is inevitable side effect of life, but we can prevent these strategies. It needs proactive preventive approach that prioritize traffic safety as a public health issue. Basic is to build Vision Zero action plan. Plans should center a safe system approach and evolve beyond the traditional 3E, engineering, education, and enforcement. It is necessary to lay out actionable, measurable strategies, emphasizing design and policy solutions, and lowering speed for safety, as was mentioned before. It is necessary to build zero guidelines. Guidelines applicable for rural, urban, and suburban communities. And the first step on this way to the zero guidelines is build a robust data framework, injury crashes statistics. Second step is establish measurable goals with a clear timeline for implementation. And third step is to be accountable. It means identify the lead agencies which are responsible, supporting agencies, budget needs. Fourth step is ensure transparency, measure progress, celebrate success, and prevent against problematic actions and create corrections when needed. There are following actions. Prioritize roadway design. Then focus on speed management. Then utilize education strategies. Then encourage safe behavior. And finally, evaluate the progress and success. Safe system recognizes people which will make mistakes, and human bodies have limited ability to tolerate crash impacts. So design and management of the road infrastructure decrease the risk of a serious mistake. And when mistake leads to a crash, the impact have to be lessened so that human body is not severely impacted. So case strategies include lowering speed limits. Safe system approach is formally designed like this circle, where there are safer vehicles, safer speeds, safer roads, safer people, and also very important post-crash care. For examples, London's transport strategy sets out the goal that by year 2041, all deaths and serious injuries will be eliminated from London's transport network. Sweden has been successful in moving from vision to action just over 2 decades. The number of road accident fatalities has been halved. Many roads have been equipped with a central barrier to prevent head-on accidents. The police can control the speed of cars with cameras. Many four-road junctions have been replaced with roundabouts. The automotive industry is investing in safer cars. Traffic environment in urban areas is designed with the focus on vulnerable road users. In 2019, the Vision Zero Academy was established by the Swedish Transport. How you can hear from the previous speaker, Kenneth Svensson. For example, Vision Zero needs every detail improved. This is crash on the guardrail, and there is on the right side guardrail which is accommodated to eliminate such crash on the terminal. Vision Zero needs strong political support, which is very important. Here I should mention Swedish Minister of Transport, Thomas Eneroth, who told no one should die in traffic accidents. We are raising the ambition to decide a new goal for 2030 to speed up the work with Vision Zero in Sweden. It was told by this minister on 13th February 2020. Vision Zero needs concerted set of actions, for example, roundabouts, narrowing travel lanes, reducing vehicle and pedestrian conflict points by reducing underutilized traffic lanes, adding center turn lanes, adding bicycle lanes, shared paths, cycle tracks, sharrows, installing, upgrading sidewalks, crosswalks, pedestrian crossing, waiting areas in median islands, upgrading transit stops, lowered speed limits, and concentrate also on safe routes to school. Vision Zero needs action plan where are measurable strategies, emphasizing design and policy solutions, design complete streets, lowering speed, and it is important to say, where do we start? Educate yourself and others on Vision Zero fundamentals. Assess your community's traffic safety situation. Identify your high injury network. Concentration on traffic safety problems and not accidental, but largely the result of patterns of disinvestment on underinvestment. City commitment is required, and develop, implement, and monitor strong Vision Zero action plan. Accident treatments. Every road accident with a fatality or serious injury must be treated as an exceptional event and reacted to it accordingly. Vision Zero means changing and understanding the responsibility. It is not only concern the responsibility of road users, but also shared responsibility of those who are involved in creating parameters of transport system designers, road administrators, car manufacturers, motorist service providers, police, emergency response teams, which are very important, politicians, lawmakers, administration and judiciary bodies, as well as other entities whose activities have an impact on behavior in traffic space, media, teachers, parents, etc. Very important is in-depth analysis of road accidents. It is a modern tool to properly understand the mechanism of accident origin and its whole course and consequences. Detailed data analysis from road accident investigation to be performed independently on the accident data collected by police. It is necessary to search for causes of road accidents and their prevention, not for sanctions and persons responsible. It is new insight into causes of accident origins. The data from in-depth analysis offer a view of all factors that are related to a specific accident, affecting its course and consequences. It means road infrastructure, vehicle, weather, traffic, visibility, human factor. Vision Zero has policy for 2021-2030. Strategy shall comply with the EU framework policy for road safety for 21 to 30. There are important political documents. You can see the logo, next steps towards Vision Zero. Then Valletta Declaration, where was the meeting of all ministers of transport, and then Stockholm Declaration. These goals include the reduction of fatalities and serious injuries from road accidents by half between 20 and 2030. You can see the safe system approach, this pyramid, where there is intermediate outcome targets, interim targets, and long-term goals. And long-term goal is 0 deaths and serious injuries by 2050. It means target and performance tracking, shared responsibility, and important is also funding. Funding should be raised from regional funds, cohesion funds, European Investment Bank, World Bank, and so on. Main intervention areas and their measurement. It is infrastructure, safe roads and also roadsides, safe vehicles, and of course, safe road users. Safe speed, sober driving, not using alcohol and drugs, preventing driving whilst distracted, and use safety belts, child restraint systems, and protective equipment, and new mobility patterns and demographic change, and fast and effective emergency response. It is recommended to make a list of key KPI, key performance indicators. There are 8 basic KPI indicators. First is for speed, which is measured by percentage of vehicles within speed limit. Second is use of safety belts and child restraint system in percentage. Third is use of protective equipment in percentage. Driving under influence of alcohol and drugs also percentage within legal limit, driver distraction, and use of handheld devices, percentage not using handheld mobile device. For vehicle safety, it means car fleet, which is NCAP 4 stars and better. For infrastructure safety, percentage of the distance driven on roads 3 stars and better. And KPIA, post-crash care, time in minutes and seconds between emergency call and arrival of the emergency services, what is very important in saving lives after accident. There are several ideas about Vision Zero Stockholm Declaration, which was made by the third Global Ministerial Conference on Road Safety, which was held in February 2020. Basic ideas. Road traffic crashes kill more than 1 million people every year. Most of these, over 90% of these casualties occurring in low and middle income countries. Majority of road traffic deaths and injuries are preventable. Shared responsibility between system designers and road users and work is necessary condition to move forward to world free from road traffic fatalities and serious injuries. The full implementation of the 2030 agenda, it means reducing road traffic deaths by at least 50% from 2020 to 2030. Road traffic injury on children and young people as a priority. Road safety and safe system approach as an integral element of land use, street design, and so on. Law enforcement, vehicle safety, infrastructure improvement, and post-crash care. 50% reduction of deaths and injuries over the next decade on our way to Vision Zero by 2050. It is review of the agenda for sustainable development, which was concentrated on all or wide area of problems. Mentioned 169 targets for action over next 15 years, but point 11 was and sustainable transport systems for all, improving road safety, and with special attention to needs of those in vulnerable situations. It means women, children, persons with disabilities, and older persons. Will a Vision Zero work will be neither simple nor quick. It will require new level of political will, community engagement, cross-sectoral collaboration, data analysis, and sometimes painfully honest assessment of that work and what does not, as well as an openness to change. It means safe travel for all, making safe streets, safe speeds, safe vehicles, safe people. It is cross-sector, large-scale collaboration, which includes also law enforcement, using consistent data, defining clear responsibilities for all partners. Focus on traffic enforcement, on the most dangerous behaviors on the roadways, such as speeding and violation of pedestrians' right-of-way. Collect, analyze, and use data. What happened, when, where, why, involving whom. Understand which locations and which behavior lead to the most serious injury crashes. Proactively prioritize safety interventions. Physically designing or redesigning roadways to encourage safe behavior is basic. And the most physically vulnerable users, people walking and biking, need safe and convenient infrastructure. It means manage speed. Design self-enforcing roadways that physically encourage safe speed through traffic calming. And geometric design, for examples, include narrower travel lanes, roundabouts, and speed humps. Enforce safe speed limits, automated speed enforcement, as well as tested and proven strategy to encourage safe speeds. Vision Zero work, which ignores speed management, is merely playing in the margins of effectiveness. And also there is technology advances on the car fleet. Maximize technology advances, but not overlook low-tech solutions. For example, cameras and blind spot mirrors on large vehicles and trucks, especially in urban areas, can reduce the consequences of crashes and are standard equipment in many parts of the world. I think that I revised all main ideas how to start and how to progress in implementation of Vision Zero. Good luck in your joint effort for zero fatal accidents. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Giri, for your detailed presentation in depth. If anyone has questions, questions are welcomed.
Yeah.
Or if not online, you can always ask us. And since we work together with Mr. Giri, we will be able to answer the questions. Our next speaker will be Mats Akebelin from World Health Organization, who is a program manager for the Decade of Action of Road Safety. Most of the road safety experts all over the world know him. So now he was before with Vision Zero Academy. Now he's in WHO and working for road safety. In fact, he could not attend it live, but he has made a recording, which we will put on. So, but still questions are also possible to Mr. Mats Ake, which can be conveyed to him. After a couple of minutes, we will put on his video.
Дорогие участники конференции, очень здорово, что вы нашли возможность поучаствовать на этой важной конференции. С глобальной точки зрения,
participants of the conference, it's very important that you are participating in this conference. Our goal is to reduce deaths and injuries because of the road incidents. So at least by 50% by 2030, This kind of conferences are very important to improve our capacity and to attract the world attention to this, to achieving this goal. Thank you very much.
First of all, I would like to thank you for this invitation to this important event. And unfortunately, I can't be in Kazakhstan to join you. My name is Mats Berlin, and I work for the World Health Organization in Geneva, the headquarters, and I'm the global lead for Decade of Action for Road Safety. So in my presentation, I will give you put what you are actually doing in Kazakhstan into a broader perspective now. First of all, road traffic injuries, it's a huge public health problem. And you know that the WHO, they're doing a list on all the ill things that can happen to humans. And you will, on this list, you will find things like heart attacks, strokes, and that kind of diseases. But you will also find road traffic injuries. And it's been estimated that road traffic injuries is the 8th leading cause of death around the world for all ages. But for young people, for people from the age of 5 to 29, road traffic injuries is a leading cause of death. So this is a huge problem. And when we look back on the trends, we can see that there is a kind of plateau, and that is actually quite good from a safety point of view, because due to the motorization and urbanization, you could expect that the number of fatalities should have increased dramatically. But at least we have some kind of plateau. But that's even if we don't see an increase right now, a big increase, it's still a huge problem. And when we look around the world, you will see there are also a large difference between different countries and different regions around the world. And in this slide, I just put Kazakhstan, and according to some estimation from the Global Status Report 2018, you have around 18 fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants, and that's the average figure in the world. But if you take a country like Sweden, which I know will be part of this conference, they have right now less than 2 fatalities per 100,000 inhabitants. So there is a huge difference between different countries around the world. And how do the global community, how do they respond to it? Well, I used to say that there is a time before 2004 and time after 2004. Because 2004 was the first time ever the UN General Assembly discussed road traffic injuries around the world. And the UN system started to organize themselves to support countries and member states in road traffic, work with road traffic injuries. And the next step was in 2009, when also the first time ever in history, a ministerial conference on road traffic injuries was organized by in Russia in 2009. And the outcome from that meeting was something that we call the Decade of Action, a global plan for the Decade of Action between 2011 and 2020. And the next step was in Brazil 2015, and that was a kind of midterm conference, the second ministerial conference on road traffic injuries. And the progress of the implementation of this first decade of action was discussed. But also parallel now with road traffic injuries and these ministerial meeting, there has been a discussion about these sustainable development goals. And road traffic injuries are now an integrated part of that agenda. Especially you will see it in 3.6, which have set up a special target for road traffic injuries, but also in the goal 11. But if you think about it, road traffic injuries is actually a part of the whole agenda, and so it's a part of these sustainable development goals. And the third step was a third ministerial conference in Sweden 2020, just before the pandemic broke out. And this was a very important conference because it was a conference who looked back on the implementation of the first decade and also looked forward to the next decade. And based on the Stockholm Declaration, the UN General Assembly adopted a new resolution in 2020 to improving global road safety around the world, and that was adopted in 2020. And among different tasks in that resolution, you will find that the UN General Assembly now have proclaimed the period 2021 to 2030 as the second decade of action for road safety, with a goal of reducing road traffic death and injuries by at least 50% from 2021 to 2030. And I must confess that's a huge challenge. If you remember my trends here, where it's been plateauing for many years, and now we have to do something about it. We need to achieve this 50% reduction until 2030. And also in this resolution, they requested WHO and the UN region commissions, together with the UN road safety collaboration partners, to prepare a plan of action, which could be a guide, a blueprint for the implementation of this global plan. And that global plan was launched in 2021. And in that plan, you will see that it's very much influenced by the ideas about safe system and Vision Zero. And I will not have the time now to go into details in this global plan. So those who are interested, please download it from the website, WHO website. But basically, it's three different sections. The first section is about what to do, and it's very much based on safe system, as I said before, and then how to do it, what kind of implementation mechanism we need to put in place to make it happen, and who to do it, those stakeholders that needs to be involved to make a difference. But to just mention some important elements in this global plan that I think is worth to mention is that in this plan now, it's obvious that we can't accept that road traffic injuries is a kind of price that we have to pay for our mobility. In this plan, it's emphasized that mobility and safe mobility is a human right. So this is very important to emphasize. The second thing is that with this 50% target, to set up this clear target for achievement, we have gone beyond step-by-step improvement strategy and to implement isolated interventions. When you start to set up targets like this, you have to put in place management system. And the third thing is in this then that you have to go beyond individual road user strategies and intervention and implement a more holistic system perspective and work how to develop your protection layers in your road transport system. So this is the third element in this plan, which is emphasized this safe system perspective. But also in this plan, for the first time, I think, the road traffic safety community are getting more into a more integrated agenda, because we know that the way that we plan and design our transport system, where we emphasize motorized individual mobility, is not sustainable in the long term, because it's create a lot of problem for environment, and it creates a lot of problem also when it comes to health in general. So therefore, the society as a whole emphasize a lot now about cycling, walking, public transport, and so on. But one of the major barrier for make that happen is actually safety. For example, parents, they can't allow their kids to go to and from school by their own, because they are afraid that something will happen to them on their way to school, and that's why safety become enabler for a lot of other things that we would like to see in our society, and mobility shift and urban planning and these kind of things are therefore emphasized in this plan. And finally, road traffic safety, if you look a little bit historically, especially in the Western countries, you see that it's been quite government oriented, and it's not enough now to achieve this 50% reduction target. We need to put in place a more society oriented approach to road safety, and in that society oriented approach, in this plan, the private sector is emphasized, because the private sector play a lot of different roles when it comes to our road transport system. But one thing among others is that they are a huge user of this road transport system, and they need to see their role into road safety, and they need to be integrated in the work with road safety. So this is some aspects in this global plan. There are lots of other things also, but hopefully I got you a view, a more general view of the content of this plan. And thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Уважаемые коллеги, надеюсь, вот все текущие презентации для вас очень интересные и полезные.
So, dear colleagues, I hope that you have enjoyed all the slide decks we had today, and I believe you find them useful. So we're not getting any questions yet, but as we mentioned before, you can actually ask your questions and send them over to us. And today we have a special guest. Actually, we're waiting for the morning to come in the United States of America. So they have morning time now. And our next speaker is from the New York City. So I can't avoid mentioning that the New York City is the capital of the world, actually. And if we did not visit New York City personally, we could see from the movies, and this is the part of our culture as well. This is a very big city. And today we have a director of safety policy. So can you imagine how many things happen in New York every day? Because we know that the traffic is very intense in New York City. This we can know from the Hollywood movies. So probably they have a lot of incidents there, and probably even death happened there. And so we'd like to know what they do there to make sure that we avoid deaths and collisions there.
Floor is yours. You may share slides, just let's check technically, and parallel the Russian translation will be going on for slides as well.
Julia, you're probably on mute.
I apologize. Yes, I was on mute. Thank you very much and good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. It is always a pleasure to share New York City's road safety program with colleagues around the world. And I thank Mr. Zhandos Amanbayev and Mr. Arstan Masanov for giving me this opportunity. My name is Julia Kite-Laidlaw. I'm the Director of Safety Policy at the New York City Department of Transportation. And today I want to talk about the Vision Zero initiative that has been our city's policy since 2014, helping us to reduce our road deaths and serious injuries to historic lows. It is centered around the belief that is both simple and complex, that crashes are preventable, so therefore the only acceptable number of deaths and serious injuries is zero. And we get there through a comprehensive program that has involved engineering, education, and enforcement. So as Mr. Amanbayev said, that New York City is a place that in many ways people are very familiar with. They know it is a place of 8.8 million people covering 303 square miles. We are unique among American cities in that we have a very extensive budget, about 100 billion US dollars just for our city, which is a very large amount, and a good deal of it now being earmarked for our infrastructure has allowed us to make intense progress on the type of engineering that has saved lives. We are also unique among American cities in that we are less reliant on personal vehicles than most places in our very large and spread out country. We are the only American city where most people go to their work using something other than a car, and most households, in fact, do not have a car. So even though the image that everybody sees of New York is of these very busy, bustling streets that you see below, we are very much like a country within one city. We have areas that are of lower density, that are almost suburban in places. We have a lot of parkland and coastline. So when we come up with engineering solutions for safety, we have to think about tailoring them very closely for the specific places that we encounter. Actions of our former mayor, Bill de Blasio. It was one of his priorities, and it came with the associated large investment of money to be able to get an unprecedented amount of work done. And it transformed not only my Department of Transportation, but other city departments that have some kind of involvement with the road system. Everything from our police to our municipal fleet of over 38,000 vehicles, to our health department, which studies injuries and their patterns across the city. It was decided that Vision Zero would be led by the transportation department, as would make sense, but that it would involve very closely many different government departments working together in ways that they may not have thought of before. This investment paid off because by the end of 2018, our road deaths had fallen by about 1/3 compared to the average of the 5 years before it began. And this was happening at a time when in the rest of the United States, deaths were actually increasing, going the exact opposite direction. So we in New York were able to do the opposite of the rest of our country at a time when it was very difficult to do so. We enjoyed many years of historic lows in both overall deaths and in pedestrian deaths. Unfortunately, with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw changes in people's behavior on the road, changes in how people use roads, and changes in people's routines and land use. And this has presented, unfortunately, an increase in road deaths that has forced us to think about what we're doing and how it may need to change, and how we can adapt to what we are calling a new normal in order to reverse the trend and continue with progress in reducing our deaths. So I like to say that there are some key principles to a Vision Zero program that have worked for us, and that I think any place that wants to do Vision Zero can learn from, even if it is a place that is smaller than New York, even if it is a place that is maybe a country and not a city, or a place that has a more limited budget. And the very first foundational principle is that data must be behind everything you do. When we decided to do Vision Zero, we had to think not only about what was right, but what was fair. Where should we work first? What should we prioritize? If we only have limited time, limited political will, what things should we prioritize? So we looked specifically at data. We looked at where the rates of pedestrian death and serious injury were highest and focused on these as our priority areas. We also looked at the research and focused on speed management because we believed that working specifically to slow down vehicles would have the greatest yield in terms of lives saved. We also knew that we needed the full support and resources of government, that it needed to be something that we knew every government department supported, that we were going to have enough funding to be able to do for not just 1 year, but for many years. It had to be something that was associated with the city in general, that everybody knew New York City is a Vision Zero city, and it is not optional. It is not something nice to have. It is something we are all focusing on. We also knew we had to combine what we were doing with things that affected everyone in the city while also giving specific attention to the places that needed it most, our priority areas. We did things like lowering the citywide speed limit and communicating it so that everybody would know that Vision Zero was happening, while at the same time, we made our first street redesigns specifically in the places that needed them most. We also learned very quickly that we needed to build relationships with road safety advocates working in the NGO sector, because these are people in many cases who have been personally affected by death and serious injury on the roads, and they can tell stories to elected officials in ways that resonate in a way that just the numbers and the work of city officials may not. They are a very powerful group to have. They can be your harshest critics while also your biggest supporters. And knowing that you have their trust, it is very important to getting things done, especially if you're talking about not just the city government, but then the state and the national government. Finally, we knew that we needed to set an example as city agencies. So what we started doing was changing our language. Instead of saying accidents, which implies that there was no way of preventing a crash, we would say crash or collision. We also made major investments in the over 30,000 vehicles that the city uses for its everyday work, to put in things like side guards on trucks to prevent a certain kind of crash that affects pedestrians and cyclists. We put in monitoring of employees' speeds and hard braking, and showed that we were going to hold ourselves accountable as well as the public. So to give an idea of just the unprecedented large amount of engineering work that we have achieved since 2014, I will not read off every number here, but the over 800 street improvement projects we have done, which is everything from one intersection to a several miles stretch of road, is many, many times what used to be normal. We used to talk about doing maybe 25 or 30 of these a year. And at one point, we then started doing over 100 because we were getting greater investment because it was a priority of the city. And when you do these projects, the public sees it, the public understands what Vision Zero is and why you were making these changes. We also massively expanded our bicycle network because not only do we want to make cycling safer, we want to encourage more of it, because what we were finding was there is safety in numbers. The more people ride bikes, the safer it becomes. So the way to get them to ride, the way to get people who do not yet ride but may want to, is to give them the safest possible options. We also wanted to invest in things that would reduce the amount of single passenger car traffic in New York City. So transit is really the key to that. My agency does not control the subway system or the bus lines, but we do control the bus lanes. So we created more dedicated bus-only lanes to speed up what was a very slow bus system. We also did a lot of interventions that people might not have noticed if they were just walking down the street, but which evidence showed had a great impact on safety. And one of them is called the LPI, or the leading pedestrian interval. What it means is that when you were at the junction with traffic signals, the pedestrian gets the walk signal about 7 to 10 seconds before the motor vehicles get a green signal in parallel. This prevents the number of collisions that happen when vehicles are turning, because now pedestrians have time to get into the center of the intersection. They are more visible. We are able to do these very quickly because it only requires a change in electronics, not any kind of concrete or paint or plastic. It is something that most people don't even notice is there, but has been reducing the number of pedestrian fatalities at intersections. We have also invested in new innovations for us, things that we never used before, but our planners realized if with a little innovation, were very cost-effective ways to slow down traffic, like our turn calming treatments, as seen here, one by Central Park with the iconic New York taxi. By putting this combination of just paint and plastic posts, we slow down vehicles by making them take wider turns. And as you can see here, there is no chance of cutting off the pedestrian who is trying to cross the street. Likewise, we had always used what we called just speed humps or speed bumps, but we were finding that we couldn't put them on streets where speeding was worse because it would get in the way of buses or ambulances or other large vehicles. So we created a new design that we called the speed cushion, which has cut out areas that force a passenger vehicle to slow down, but a wider bus or ambulance can put their wheels in between and not be impeded if there is an emergency. So again, small changes to things that we were already doing or had not yet done ended up being extremely effective. We also had to think, though, on a very large scale. And what we call the Vision Zero Great Streets program was meant to completely transform large roadways throughout the city that had very bad reputations as being places that were not only dangerous, but were not inviting to walk, or that seemed like places you might never want to ride a bike unless you were extremely daring. So the picture I'm showing you here is a place called Queens Boulevard. It is about a 7-mile long roadway. I actually live very close to it. And in the 90s, when I was much younger, it was popularly called the Boulevard of Death. And it was very strange at the time that nobody really thought there was something odd about having a road you could call the Boulevard of Death. At some point, you would have pedestrian deaths, 10 or more in 1 year. It was just a place that nobody wanted to be on, and it cut communities off from each other. So one of our first priorities was to completely remake Queens Boulevard to show that if we can make change here, then it is possible everywhere. So as you see in the larger picture, we have done things like add protected bike lanes. Some of these plastic white posts have been replaced with concrete to make it impossible for cars to drive into it. We have invested in better markings, in wider high visibility crosswalks, in bus lanes, in preventing cars from shifting from the center area to the service road on the side. We have made pedestrian islands so that if somebody cannot cross this very wide roadway in one signal interval, they have a safe place to wait. And as a result, we actually had several years in which 0 pedestrians were killed on Queens Boulevard after years and years of very high numbers. And we are continuing to do this on 5 major roads across the city. As I mentioned, we have also invested a great deal in completing our bicycle network because the best way to get people out of cars and trying cycling is to make them feel safe. So what we are doing is specifically looking at ways that bike lanes can connect destinations. The bike lane you are seeing here is near the Manhattan Bridge in Manhattan, and it is part of a network that goes from the borough of Brooklyn over one very large bridge all the way up through Manhattan to the borough of the Bronx. And we want networks like this so that people can see a bike lane and think, oh, I can go to my job this way. I can go to a doctor's appointment. I can go shopping, and I will be protected the entire way. We know that people will feel intimidated if a bike lane suddenly disappears, and then it is no good to them if they decide to not do the entire journey because they are worried or they are uncertain. And we have seen cycling increase massively, especially with the pandemic when people were afraid to get on trains or on buses. And our challenge now is to continue to build so that people who tried biking will continue to bike. And as I mentioned, speed management is likely our most important tool in saving lives. When Vision Zero first began, we lowered the citywide speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. And the way we communicated this to the public was by saying, it may not seem like a big difference to go from 30 to 25, but if a pedestrian is hit at 25, their odds of surviving are doubled. It was a very simple soundbite. Change your speed by 5 miles per hour and massively increase the odds of someone surviving. And that resonated with the public. We also combined this, of course, because if you're going to make a change, you must enforce it. We began in 2014 with the authorization of our state to have a speed camera program that issues a $50 fine, which is much less than what a police officer would give to any vehicle that is traveling more than 10 miles per hour over the limit. So most places that means you must be going 36 miles per hour. It is something that has been phenomenally successful. And while we do have to work with our state government to get authorization, we have expanded the program several times, and we now have what we believe is the largest speed camera program in the world. It has reduced speeding by over 70%. And what we have found by looking at the data, again, because data has to guide everything we do, is that most drivers get no more than 2 of these violations in the past 8 years. So they learn very quickly from a relatively low penalty and they change their behavior. And since August 2022, with another change in our state law, we now run these cameras 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They used to be tied specifically to school hours because we find that the public is very understanding of interventions that are meant to protect children. But then as we proved that the program worked and was fair and was effective, attitudes changed and people became okay with having them on for longer hours of the day, until finally we showed the data of how many people were being hit overnight and were able to get authorization to run the cameras overnight. So what has been the outcome of all these changes? As I said, for many years, we saw historic lows. We began keeping records in the year 1910, and the first 8 years of Vision Zero were, I believe, 7 of the 8 safest on record. We hit a record low of 206 deaths in 2018. We saw a small increase in 2019, which we expected because progress is not always in a straight line. But then, unfortunately, with the pandemic, numbers increased, and I will get into the reasons for a minute. But then when we look at pedestrian fatalities, which matter a lot to us because we are a city where everybody walks, and these are the most vulnerable people, we hit a record low with the pandemic when people were not leaving their houses. And our challenge now is, how can we keep numbers low as life is more back to normal and people are out again? So when we think about what happened during the pandemic, unfortunately, this is where New York no longer did something different from the rest of the country. Because so many fewer people were driving, there were more opportunities to speed. The streets were wide open. So if people were out, they were probably, some of them were taking risks in the first place and were more likely to be speeding. We saw fewer injuries, actually, again, because fewer people were there. But when a crash did happen, it was more likely to be fatal, mostly because of speed. We also saw a lot more people on motorcycles die, and we believe this is because we had a lot of young men in particular who did not have work, who were looking for something to do. So they took motorcycles that they did not know how to drive, that did not belong to them. And they had a lot of crashes where they just hit walls or they hit trees because they did not know what they were doing. We also saw a bunch of new devices like electric mopeds, stand-up scooters that were very new and people did not know how to use. So they had fatal crashes that did not involve other vehicles. Also, because our police were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, the amount of enforcement they were doing, which had been so much higher than in previous years, suddenly fell. So we think drivers believed they could do dangerous things and not have a consequence. Now that things are more back to normal, our vehicle volume is more like it was pre-pandemic, but we're still seeing reckless driving. People are not deterred. So we are thinking, what new solutions do we need? In the year 2021, we saw speed was a factor in many more fatalities than it had been before. We are also seeing a lot of people driving while intoxicated, either on alcohol or on illegal drugs. We do not have exact numbers because we are also seeing a lot of hit and runs, people leaving the scene of a crash. And we believe a lot of them are leaving because they are drunk or because they are on drugs. And they either are not in the right state of mind or they do not want to get caught. We are also seeing a larger percentage of our fatal crashes are involving a driver who has a previous record of dangerous driving, or they do not have a license. Their license was suspended for dangerous driving. They've had many convictions for dangerous driving in the past, or they have been caught driving while drunk in the past. Unfortunately, we are seeing the same things from 2021 continuing through 2022. We also saw a lot of motorcyclists who just do not have a license, or if they have a license, it is to drive a car and not a motorcycle. They do not have a registered motorcycle, so they have not made sure it is a safe vehicle. Because of this, because of these changes, we are thinking that we need a new approach, one that is going to take what is working and keep doing what is working, because our engineering did not change with the pandemic. We did not rip up the bike lanes. We did not put the signals back to how they used to be. We did not bulldoze the pedestrian space. All of those stayed, and we know those things save lives. So we are looking at other angles through enforcement and through legislation that we can tackle this new problem we're seeing. And a lot of the challenge we face is that we are a city within a state, within a country of 50 states. So we cannot do everything that we like on our own. We must go to our state governments to have them give us authority as a city to do certain things like run speed cameras or red light cameras. And then we also rely on our federal government to do things like set standards for what is a safe vehicle if a driver hits a pedestrian. So that is where we are now focusing for the needs we have. So we are continuing our engineering work by both making our existing bike lanes stronger to prevent vehicles from coming into them, and also creating new pedestrian space. During the pandemic, we saw that in a city like New York, where most people live in small apartments, people needed outdoor space, and the street was the place to get it. So we created what we called the Open Streets program to shut down roads at certain times to vehicle traffic, so children can play, or people can sit outside or eat, or just really enjoy the public space they need. We are also now working on several bills we want to pass into law at the state level that would allow the city to do things like for that small proportion of people whose behavior is not changed by our speed cameras or our red light cameras after 1 or 2 violations, can we go further and suspend the state registration of their car? Can we create stronger penalties for people whose licenses are suspended, but they continue to drive because we know that they are overrepresented in who is involved in a crash? Can we change what is the level of alcohol that you have to drink before it is considered drunk driving? Right now, the United States, almost every state is much higher than the rest of the world. If we could lower to be more in line with other countries, we believe we could reduce deaths by 10%. So these are things that we cannot do alone as a city because of how our government is set up. But if we can convince our state elected officials of the necessity of these changes for reducing road deaths, we think we can change everything. So that was a quick tour through what is now a 9-year program, and I'm very happy to answer questions. If not now, then my email address is listed here, and I'm very happy to speak further about anybody who might wish to know more about what we're doing in New York. And I thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Julia. It was truly interesting, and it shows us that the struggle for better, safer roads is continuous. We are seeing the results after pandemic, and even NYC has challenges. And it's really nice to see you after 3 years
Yes.
for Vision Zero Academy, and hope conferences and meetings will continue in person, offline also. And thank you so much for now today's presentation. And I think we have a question.
Приветствую, Julia.
Welcome, Julia. I'm happy to see you again after 3 years when we visited Vision Zero Academy. I have a question to all the speakers, actually. You can, Julia, you can, it's here. What are the challenges when you started to implement Vision Zero? What were the challenges at the initial stage of Vision Zero implementation? And what were the solutions that you found to these challenges?
Yes, thank you. The challenges that we first faced at the very beginning, I think, were just that people find change very difficult. And drivers thought that they were being attacked by being told to change their behavior. They thought that we wanted to take away all cars. We thought that we wanted to give them higher taxes, make them pay penalties for driving. And I think what really helped with that was keeping everything associated with data, making statements about how the small change in speed is a big difference in whether somebody survives a crash, and also working with the advocates. Unfortunately, there had been 4 high-profile deaths of children in the year before Vision Zero began. And because those were in the news, and because the pedestrian advocacy groups were very public and very visible, I think that helped to convince the public that we did need to make some change. We do still have some public pushback for things like our speed cameras, but the way that we convince people that it is fair and it is safe is, again, by coming with the data that shows that most people will change their behavior after 1 or 2 violations, and that we built in a buffer of the 10 miles per hour before you get a ticket, so people can't argue with us, oh, you're just out to get our money because we went 1 mile per hour over, because that is not true. And also, I think the leadership of the mayor was very crucial, because he was setting the tone for the entire city. He said that this is going to happen, we are doing it no matter what, and we are doing it for safety. So it became something that was just part of New York City that wasn't going to go away. people knew it was coming, and we did a lot of public outreach. We did meetings in many different neighborhoods to talk to people about what they wanted to see change, what they thought was a problem, and what they wanted us to do. And because we took the time and sent our planners to every neighborhood, it helped make it less something that the government was just doing to people and more something that people wanted for their own neighborhood because they saw that things could be better.
Thank you, Julia.
Большое спасибо.
Thank you for your answer. But how you are resolving the issues with the state government? For example, if you need to change some legislation, how you are pushing this amendment to the legislation at the state level?
Again, we find it is very powerful to have the advocates who have been personally affected by a road death communicate with the elected officials. They actually go up to our state capitol, which is about a 2 or 2.5 hour drive from New York City, and speak to them directly and talk about their family member or their friend who was killed in some crash that was preventable. And I think those stories hit people in a way that maybe statistics do not. And those people get into the news and get into the media and really make it a human story rather than just numbers on a page. We have also been lucky in that the political balance in our state has been one that is friendly to the city in terms of the political parties who are in control. And we personally do a lot of outreach to the elected officials, giving them data from the area they represent so we can show them that we made a change in their district and it reduced deaths by this amount, or that we reduced speeding by this amount. We make it very personal to them so that they can go to the people who elected them and say, this is what is happening, this is why your neighborhood has been improved and we can do more of it. You have to make everything very personal.
Большое спасибо.
Thank you very much. Your answers were very helpful. We'll try to use similar approaches while we are dealing with our bosses. But let's be in touch because we will have more questions. Let's stay in touch.
Спасибо.
Mr. Jury, are you with us? Can you add something to the answer? Can you, Albert? Mr. Jury, are you here? Are you still with us? Experience of implementation of Vision Zero in your country, what are the challenges you faced at the beginning and what were the effective solutions to these challenges?
Vision Zero in Czech Republic, do you mean?
Yes.
Actually, it is only in plans and strategies, and I don't see any intensive activity in implementation of Vision Zero in Czech Republic. We have also strategic plan for decade how to improve the road safety, and there is a lot of individual tasks like limited speed, safety around school, and so on. So there is more than 20 activities. Some of them are focused on the infrastructure. Some of them are focused on the drivers, on the education, and so on. And now we have a 2-year period after which the Ministry of Transport is asking for control how the short-term plans were fulfilled.
Thank you, Mr. Giri, because experience of Czech Republic is definitely interesting to us, because just 30 years ago, or already 30 years ago, we had the same system of economy, planned economy, and Czech Republic is had successful transition. I believe the most advanced in entire Eastern Europe, which has entered a European community on the equal rights with the previous countries that were in European Union, like Western European. The only, I believe, others are still not at that level, and that of course includes road safety and in general economy and politics overall. Dear speakers, dear guests today, thank you everybody for dedicating your time. I don't think there is anything more important, and that is really relevant to everybody, the road safety. There are different problems with different group of populations. But while talking about road safety, that's applicable and relevant for all of us, because we are all passengers, drivers, and pedestrians. And it's our direct interest to have a better road safety. We are in touch with everybody. Most of today's audience are known to us, Kazakh Scientific Research Institute for Road Safety. And for Kazakhstan, have a good evening, everybody. For Europe as well, and have a nice day for United States, and a very good night for Australia, because we have also guests from Australia, particularly Mr. Sean is here, and I cannot name everybody, but yeah, here we have our government authorities. Көп рахмет мемлекеттік қызметкерлерге уақыт тапқандарың үшін.
Thank you very much to all the participants.
Our conference, and thank you everybody, and I'm not sure if applauses are can be passed by Zoom, but yeah, everybody huge applauses. So good night, bye everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.